What is the most comforting moment you've shared with your sibling? When I was 16 years old, I played a cooperative video game with them for 2 days. Now at 27 years old, I remember those days with a lot of love and thanks. I was very happy at that time. When we stayed up late talking during a tough time, that was the time that we shock each other, because based on each other personality we never thought that each one of us would really experiencing it made us more close and wanted to protect each other more. One night, we stayed up talking about our fears. It brought us closer together. Going through a divorce with a sexually and physically abusive man currently. My brother has been a great rock for me, offering me money, and all the time I need to talk etc. It feels good to have a big brother. I remember one night when my brother and I stayed up late just talking about everything: school, life, our goals. We ended up laughing so hard we almost woke our parents. It felt so good to just be real with each other. Those moments remind me that no matter what, we've got each other's backs. After a terrible breakup, my brother drove over at 1 a.m. with a blanket and a playlist. We just sat in the car, listening to music, not even talking. He knew I didn't want to talk about it, just needed company. That kind of silent support hits different. When I was going through a breakup, my sister stayed with me for a week. She made sure I never felt alone. After a breakup, I spent the evening for dinner with my sister. When leaving, she gave me a good tight hug and was almost welling up over my heartbreak. The audacity, haha. And then told me it'll be fine, it will work out. And to make sure I get home safe, I'm 24, haha. I have been there for her before, but it was the first time I needed her and it was reciprocated. One of the most comforting moments was when I was going through a tough breakup, and my sibling just sat with me all night watching movies and eating snacks. Having a late night chat about life while finishing off a tub of ice cream. Best therapy session. My younger brother is pretty far on the autism spectrum. He works and stuff, but he stems a lot and doesn't really hold conversations and gets uncomfortable when you talk to him directly a lot of time. Most of the time he sits with us and does his own thing. A couple of months after I started college, my parents were going out of town for a few days and asked if he could stay with me. I said sure, so I went to pick him up, and while we were driving to my place he looked over at me and told me he missed me when I was gone. He's never expressed any sort of sentiment like that to me or anyone else that I can recall. I know he cares about me in his own way, but I know it must have been hard for him to say that. It means more to me than anything anyone else has ever said to me. My twin brother and I were not very close, just talked. I can't remember why, but it made me feel so much better. When we stayed up all night just talking, laughing, those moments always make me feel so close to them. My brother was the black sheep of the family. He was always getting in trouble. Kinda of a loner. He never showed any interest in us. Didn't really hang out with us even though we lived together. One night, I was having an argument with an ex over the phone on my balcony and I was crying. He texts me and asks, "Who are you talking to?" Turns out he was sitting outside too and heard me. I told him about it. He texts me back saying that guy is an asshole. I see him walking out of the gate. 20 minutes pass and I go back inside. He comes back and knocks on my door and offers me a bag of popcorn, 2 Kit Kats, Red Bull, painkillers and a bottle of water. He says nothing and just walks away. That made me feel so much better. I stood up for myself after and that memory stuck with me forever. He passed away in December 2021. My older siblings and I each shared something that makes us cupid, but are embarrassed to admit to each other. It got really emotional and was surprisingly very eye-opening. We were all very vulnerable that night and spoke through a lot of pent-up feelings. We also all cried together for the first time. I used to wake up with leg cramps when I was 4 and just cry because it hurt so bad. I shared a room with my 13-year-old sister, and she would wake up and rub my legs until I fell asleep. Happened regularly and must have impacted her sleep, but she did it without fail. Was in the middle of a panic attack because I got into a fight with my mom. Called up my sister who had just recently left for college. When fights happened before, my sister would stay as far out of things as possible, and I always thought she didn't really care about helping me with problems that were obviously out of anyone's control. But she was just as freaked out as me. She just didn't handle arguments the way I did. I called my sister crying and we just talked. I don't even remember what she had said, but felt so much better afterwards. I was there when my brother had to put his 16-year-old dog to sleep. I'd been there with my mom when the time came for family pets, but this was his first experience, and that dog was his baby. I told him what to expect and even stood beside him as the shot was being administered. After his pup had moved on to doggo heaven, I got a legit hug from him, and thanks for being there in the middle of the night. He's a notorious side hugger, so that was a nice change. I'm glad he called, so I could say my goodbyes to his sweet boy too. I had a terrible day once and my brother just sat with me in silence, letting me vent. It was exactly what I needed. Standing up for me when I used to get bullied at school.